welcome to episode 529 of the Grit to Greatness Endurance Podcast. We're your hosts, coaches Rich Soares, April Spildy, and Lauren Brown, and we are on a mission to help endurance athletes train smarter, race stronger, and build the grit it takes to achieve greatness. And guys, we have an awesome guest. We actually have our former co-host of the 303 Endurance Podcast, someone who is no stranger behind the mic. Bill Plock is with us. Welcome, Bill. We got a lot of stuff going on, but just welcome back, my friend.
Yeah, it's great to see you guys, and I'm excited to be on, and it's fun to see how you're progressing this platform into different ways, and just your coaching is really blowing up. And I love to, when we were talking a couple weeks ago about your velocity cycling, that's pretty cool. And it's really fun to think back to where we were when we started this podcast and how how it's grown and what your own coaching platforms have grown. And it's been a pretty amazing journey to watch and be part of.
Well, I mean, what a history we've had, and it's gone through a lot of seasons. We had a lot of changes even when you and I were co-hosting, right? We had a lot of evolution of the podcast, but it just feels like, we're all in the, living room together, having a big old family reunion, and we're meeting some new family members here. Coach April, Coach Lauren, you guys ready to get gritty and have some fun here?
1,000%.
Let's do this. Well, listen, hey, we're going to be talking about a really fun topic today, Colorado's ride. This is one of the best rides in the country, bar none. 5 days of awesome riding, big climbs, Colorado mountain towns, really, honestly, some of the best scenery and riding that you will ever find. We're also going to rewind the clock to some of the best moments from the podcast over the years. And I tell you what, there is going to be a few things that are going to probably make you want to do this ride this year. It's an amazing experience, and lots to go into here. So let's get into it. I'm going to hand it over to Coach April, to talk about our first announcement. And there we go.
All right. It is, of course, Tri-Dot Pool School coming up here in Colorado Springs. We will be hosting a weekend workshop next weekend, February 28th through March 1st. And we even have Coach Rich as our demoer, showing us all things fast. So whether you are a beginner struggling to feel comfortable in open water or an experienced athlete chasing podium spots, improving your swim technique can unlock some truly massive benefits, such as greater confidence, efficiency, and speed. We're going to explore what good mechanics look like, why they matter, and how programs like Tri-Dot Pool School can accelerate your progress. We have an awesome code here as well for you to sign up. Definitely want you to do that fast because the registration is going to close here. But Rocky Mountain Rate, all one word, will get you $125 off on your registration, and we would love to see you on deck.
And I would love to see video of Coach Rich doing all the drills and demoing at Pool School. So please make sure you get that. No pressure.
Got it.
It just got hot. I'm starting to sweat.
Just putting that out there.
You wear a Speedo, Rich?
I do not wear a Speedo. You will never find me in a Speedo ever. I'm pretty sure.
I love it. So next announcement, Velocity is live. We've been live since February 7th. So if you have not yet grabbed your trial link, that will be in the show notes where you can subscribe and again, get a trial so you can experience Velocity. You will get to ride with the Grit to Greatness coaches that you have learned to love. And we have been having a blast getting our reps in each week. So make sure, share with a friend, come join us. Again, you can get a free 2-week trial. It's $79 per month. Grit to Greatness premium athletes and ambassadors, you do get a 25% discount. So totally take advantage of that. When you join Velocity Rides, you are going to have an opportunity to develop shifting, cadence, smoother pedal strokes, and power control. It is a community environment where you're going to really be able to dial in on those skills. Right now, we have 3 live classes per week. Themes change slightly. We have some fun names to go along with them. So this Saturday, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, you can join Coach Rich for a 90-minute ride, Paceline Power-Ups. Tuesday, we've got 6 a.m. Mountain Time, 60-minute ride with Coach April, mountain bike focused. Stay tuned. Follow us on G2G Endurance on Instagram, because then you'll get to see the fun name coming out at you this upcoming week. And then Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Mountain Time, I will be doing a 60-minute more triathlon aero based ride. This past week was Goldilocks gears, to be determined this coming week's theme. So again, join us, monthly all access, 3 live classes, and you'll also be able to catch some replays and check the link in the show notes where you can subscribe and grab your trial.
Guys, I love the names. We are like in a competition for the best marketing hook. And the Paceline Power-Ups is definitely inspired by last weekend's racing, because man, did we ever pull some pace lines. And I'm actually going to be using, like, the ride tomorrow is going to be all in the context of imagine that we are racing. Imagine that we are live racing, and it's just going to be an absolute hoot. All right. So,
that might be the name of my next workout there, Rich. Absolute hoot.
Absolute.
You just gave it to me. Thank you. So our next ride is going to be absolute hoot, mountain bike focused.
That's good.
Well, I'll tell you what, listen, these Paceline Power-Ups can also serve you well if you do Colorado's ride. I'll tell you what, when we were doing Colorado's ride 2 years ago, it was the pace lines that really helped us get through some of those longer days, those 90-mile days. When you just you're working with a group, it makes a big difference. So, and speaking of, if you've ever wondered what it takes to turn Colorado's iconic roads and mountain passes into a bucket list ride, today's episode is for you. We're sitting down, as we said, with my former co-host and the editor of the 303 Triathlon and 303 Endurance website. Bill Plock is now the ride director for Colorado's ride. And, we are going to be, speaking of a great ride, we are going to get on a nice little ride here, because we're going to be going through some of the memorable moments of the 303 Endurance podcast. And then we will go behind the scenes on how Bill and his team designed the course, dialed in the safety and logistics, and created a community vibe that keeps riders smiling and coming back. We're going to be sharing some practical tips also on how to prepare for this 5-day adventure. There's a link here in the show notes to go out to the ride, check it out for yourself, and let's roll into it. Coach April, I'm going to turn it over to you. We are in your hands.
Oh, I got some plans here. Gentlemen, it's amazing that you two have been riding this ride, if you will, since 2016. So I'm sure there are folks that are newer to your relationship. So I would love to know the backstory. How did the 303 Endurance podcast and your partnership get started? And what role did 303 Triathlon and Endurance play in that origin story?
Well, hopefully we have the same story, first of all. Rich and I met at a Ironman in Cozumel, actually. And I think I told this story last time we spoke, but I'll tell it again. I remember seeing Rich at the airport, and I kind of thought he was close to my age, and he looked just way more svelte than I felt myself. And I thought, man, this guy, I think he might be good. And I was kind of just eyeballing him, and I'm like, I got to beat him. I just got to do this. And didn't even know him. And then we saw each other a little bit, I guess, during the week. And then we raced, and is at the airport on the way home where we started talking and got to know each other and exchanged phone numbers and became friends. And Rich at that time had this idea of doing a podcast. So we went riding up Waterton Canyon, or Deer Creek Canyon, as a matter of fact. And we're discussing the idea of putting together a podcast. And then he did it. He put together a platform. And back then we actually used Skype, and we got up at 6 a.m. and we used Skype. We had another host, and it was really pretty glitchy. Like there was always something wrong with the internet, or the Skype connection was this or that, and it was a bit challenging. And we were early in the morning, and it was a rough, not a rough start, but it was a different start for sure.
Yeah, man, it was rough. We had some like major like screw ups. Like I had some major screw ups. Like I remember the one time we were interviewing the oh man, it was an in-person interview with the CEO of
Strava.
Strava. Yeah, it was downtown, and
Yep.
we got like 30 minutes into the interview, and we realized we weren't even recording.
Right. Because we had a manual recorder. We
It
had
was
regular.
terrible.
It was a regular recorder that we just didn't push the button.
Oh, that
Yeah,
stinks.
he was very nice
But
about it.
yeah, he was very nice about it.
Oh,
But
good.
yeah, we made it work. We kept tweaking, and we would change technology as new things became available. And but yeah, that was really the origin. Just this friendship and this
Mm.
idea that you know Bill was working for 303 Triathlon at the time, 303 Endurance, or maybe it was called 303 Cycling at the time, and I got invited into kind of the 303 team as a part of, just because of the podcast. And that became another like addition to all of the other content that you and the then staff of three were putting together.
Yeah, I bought the company. I can't remember what year it was. 2017, I think. And we had two websites at the time, 303cycling.com and 303triathlon.com. And 303cycling.com had been around for quite a while, actually, probably around 2008 or so. Maybe it was started by a guy named Chris Thompson. I have a story about that later. And then they were just for cycling focused. And then they crossed paths with a woman named Dana Willett, who they started 303triathlon.com. And then through another connection, Katie Maccarelli, I got started writing articles for them just for fun, for free. Nobody got paid anything. And we had a little bit of advertising. And then we had an offer to be bought by what later became Outside. And I did not want to go work for Outside, just not because of anything with Outside. I just didn't want to do what they wanted me to do. So but then that killed the deal because they wanted me to come on as a sales manager type thing. And so then I said, well, I'll buy it. So then I did. And then my vision was to put the two websites together because it was a little confusing for advertising and things like that to have two different websites. So we merged and renamed ourselves 303 Endurance. And then we had the podcast, which is a different name once upon a time as well. And then we agreed to just call it 303 Endurance Podcast. And we merged that platform with his other platform. And then we started to roll. But to your question, April, is the 303 website was really the nucleus of a lot of this, because it most memorably was when we went to Kona several times to cover the Ironman World Championships as a media organization. And we had good credentialing. We got all the back behind the scenes stuff. We interviewed several different people in fishing lines. Rich, you have a great shot with what's his name? The world champion.
Yeah, well, we had Jan Frodeno,
Yeah, and Ferdino.
Tio. I mean, we did some incredibly high profile interviews.
Bob Babbitt, Mike Riley. So we had a lot going on in Kona. It was great. We had a good 5-year run or so, and then COVID just kind of wiped everything out, and it just fizzled from there. And then 303, the website, actually, that's another story, but it's not active right now because of some technical problems. That's another story. And then I backed away from that and started Colorado's Ride because ultimately I wanted to do something different and make some money doing it. So, yeah.
So when we're looking at kind of the history of the podcast, and you guys covered everything from local sprint races to Ironman coverage, how did you really decide what kinds of stories you wanted to tell about the Colorado endurance community?
It really morphed all over the place, to be honest. We weren't hyper focused on Colorado necessarily. We had a streak of, I don't know, it's what, 3 or 4 years where we had a guest every Friday. And
Every Friday.
we sometimes were just working hard on Wednesday to find somebody to record with us on Friday. So we had a pretty wide spectrum of guests. We had a guy that did 7 marathons in 7 continents in 7 days. We had a guy that rode a boat from California to Hawaii all by himself. We had a really fun. We had a couple of times where we had live podcasts, and we did them at a coffee shop in Golden, and we had I'm spacing her name.
Sarah Thomas.
Sarah Thomas, and she swam the English Channel 4 times, and we got her on the podcast not long after that. And we were probably the only local media that she even came down to talk to, because she was pretty wiped out from all the press coverage on NBC and CBS and all the big national players about that story. So we did that. We definitely participated in a lot of Colorado-based races, and we covered a lot of all the Ironmans, and we lake to lake and other triathlons. We did a lot with the para people as well. So we had several interviews with the para team. We went down to Colorado Springs for the Olympic watch party. With Andy Potts, who was guiding one of the athletes, we rode bikes with him at Pikes Peak. So we definitely had a lot of interaction with Colorado athletes. Oh, yeah. Training and you mentioned T.O. and Rennie. We did a contest with Audi Boulder one year, and the winner of the contest got a free training session with Rennie, and we rode along and we filmed it, and those videos are still on the 303 YouTube, and they got tens of thousands of views. So a lot of interesting things.
Awesome.
Before Sam Long was even a name, like nobody even knew Sam Long. But remember, we saw that he had won that marathon, and he'd already like won his age group at Ironman Boulder, the full, at like the age of 18. But then we saw that he had won a marathon flat out, and we got him on the podcast before he turned pro. Nobody even knew him yet.
Yeah.
And we were actually the ones introducing him to our sponsor, Icor, in Kona. Remember that? Like, we're like, hey, come meet the guys at Icor. It was just an amazing ride.
Guys, wow. I feel like there should be a book and a movie just based off of everything you shared. That was incredible. Speaking of kind of where all this lives, the 303 Endurance page, it does show the behind the scenes from races, travel, and interviews. Is there a moment from those trips, maybe a late night show prep, a race day broadcast, or a funny mishap that really captures what it's been like building this podcast?
Honestly, there's been so many. It's really hard to pick one out. I think probably I really did enjoy when we were live, like when we sat on the beach with Bob Babbitt and Mike Riley, and they came as a matter of fact, Bob had just finished his own Breakfast with Bob show, and he walked over to our table where we had him sit down and talk to us for 45 minutes and talk about the history of triathlon and his stories about his first time in, well, it wasn't Kona, it was in Maui at the time, and the first trial Ironman, and he didn't even know it. He thought they spent the night. He didn't know it was a one-day thing. He thought it was just, he had no idea what he brought a loaf of Hawaiian bread in his shirt, and there was like no real protocols to it. It was like he just did it. And so it was fun to hear those stories and kind of put perspective on where we grew as a sport, and then as we got involved. So those were probably the ones that really stand out. And I can remember, we've recorded, for me and Rich too, we've recorded all over the world. I was in Bangkok one time. I was in my trailer on top of a mountain. I was out in the Eastern Plains. I was in Iowa. I was in California, and Rich was in Japan one time, I think, weren't you?
In Hawaii, and all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember us, the night before the Ironman World Championship in Kona. tipping beers with Dave Christian, one of the Ironman race directors, at the time, the Ironman Boulder race director.
Yep.
And, we're sitting there tipping beers, the night before the big race, and going to the Thank God I'm Not Racing party, Bob
Oh,
Babbitt's Thank God I'm Not Racing party. And I mean, and everybody who is not racing, like literally all the coaches, all the masseuses and, physical therapists and media people and former champions and,
Yep.
pros were, I mean, it's just, and it's wall to wall. I mean, it's like, you can't get around. It's that packed.
Were you in?
That was fun.
Were you with me when we did the Rudy Project party?
I don't know that I was. That might have been the year before. Because
Okay.
was Kem with you?
I don't think so, but
Okay.
we hung out with Rudy Project. They had a party.
Oh yes, I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Yeah, 100%. It was that big house, that massive house. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
for me, it was really fun because I love the movie Rudy, and the reason they were having this party was because what's his name, the actor Sean Austin, who played Rudy, was doing the Ironman that year. So Rudy Project had a
Oh.
big media event so that you could meet Sean Austin. And I had my daughter with me in Kona. She was 12 at the time, 11. Anyway, I have a picture with me and her and Sean Austin, and I was telling him how much I enjoy his movie Rudy, and then he was asking me, he's like, "Do you have any advice for the Ironman?" Because he'd never done one. He'd never done a full. He was just celebrity guest. And he finished, and the crowd at the finish line was like, "Rudy, Rudy." It was pretty cool.
There is nothing like that finish line in Kona. Honestly, the energy at that finish line at close to midnight. I remember Jamie Tweet was out there. She was like, we were like, we could see her tracker, and she was like way out, at the end of the course. She just came out of the energy lab, and I went out there at like 10 o'clock at night on a mountain bike with a headlamp on,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just pitch black out there, and you can't like shine the light up because it's going to be in an athlete's face. You can't see anybody. They can't, you don't,
Mm-hmm.
you might be able to tell it's a female versus a male, but other than that, and I would just be like, Jamie, is that you? Jamie, is that you?
Yeah.
And then I would like, I remember like riding back with her and trying to keep her motivated. Just run to that next light post, just make it there. And then just teasing her to get like one light post at a time. And then you could start to hear Mike Riley. And he was saying, I know you can hear me up there, and because you can, like you can be 3 miles away from the finish line and you can hear the finish. And he's like, looking at the time and calling out, you got this much time left. And people are just panicking out there. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love hearing stories from all of the events. Like, I think I could just sit and listen all night to stories. One more question, maybe before we pivot to Colorado's ride. And this, again, it's going to be tough, I'm sure, to pinpoint one answer, but out of the hundreds of interviews that you've done since 2016, is there one person or one conversation that really stands out?
I think for me, probably Tez Steinberg, the guy that rode from California to Hawaii. Who's actually, at the time, he lived in Netherlands, I think. But I think that story, I don't know, just resonated because I just can't imagine doing what he did. And just some of the things he talked about, the beautiful things like the wildlife and the serenity and but then the tough things, like he said, the first 200 miles were just absolutely horrible, trying to get basically off the continental shelf and the huge waves going out of San Francisco towards the west. And then his big goal was to raise money for scholarships for climate change education, essentially. And he's kind of hoping to see the plastic island that's out there, but the currents kept him from getting to that area. But what he did say was kind of sad, was he could always look in the water and find something floating, like some kind of plastic or trash. There was never a moment when it was just, but then the opposite always was cool, where the wildlife and the birds and the, just And once you got past the really hard water, it was really serene, it sounded like. So his descriptions really stuck out to me.
I mean, he was out there for like, it was more than 90 days.
Yeah, it was a long
Can
time.
you imagine being by yourself, nobody else, and you're rowing a rowboat? There's no motor to it. You're just rowing.
Yeah.
By yourself. He said to train for it, he actually would like spend like a whole week just by himself, completely alone. I think he said he did like a whole month to get ready for it, just because of the loneliness factor that he was getting ready to experience. Yeah, that was incredible. I still pinch myself, like, did these people like really respond to us and like join us on the show? Like Taylor Knibb and Christian Blumenfeld. I mean, we had both Taylor Knibb and Christian Blumenfeld on the podcast a number of times. It wasn't just like a one time.
Christian was fascinating because he wasn't a thing. And we had him on the podcast. He jumped on the podcast like in France or somewhere in Europe. And God only knows what hour it was for him. And he didn't know us from Adam. And he just responded. He had just won something. And these were in the days where sometimes we were a little desperate for guests. And I think Rich threw him a DM on Instagram or something to invite him. And it was 2019 because he made a bold prediction. He said, I'm going to win the gold medal in the Olympics in 2020. And nobody even heard of this guy. That was,
and we're like, yeah.
I'm like, this guy's pretty confident guy. I was like, and then next thing you know, he blew up the triathlon world for the next 5 years.
Yeah. But I would say as much of that, still amazes me. One of the interviews that really has always stuck with me was Jillian Bearden. Jillian was a transitioned athlete, male to female. She was the pioneer for the testing standards for where your hormones need to be eligible to race female. And she talked about the very painful and very painful, emotionally painful process, and being lost in that process and feeling alone in that process. And in the interview, I'm getting a chill right now as I think about this. She actually confessed to us about this moment. She was driving down the highway and she had both hands on one side of the steering wheel going like 70 miles an hour, and she was ready to roll her car. Just, being that emotionally vulnerable with us, like she didn't know us either, right? And she's sharing this story with the world. And to have a front row seat to that and be a part of her telling that story is just like, wow, we're reaching people, and that was powerful for me.
Yeah.
Ooh. It's going to be hard to shift over into this next conversation, but I am
we need
excited.
One more question to bring us back up.
Well, honestly, we've talked a lot about community storytelling, all the awesome adventures that you all have had, the people you've met, the inspiration, right? I'm sure that shows up in Colorado's ride too. So how did your experience with 303 Triathlon, 303 Endurance, and the podcast lead you to becoming the ride director for Colorado's ride, Bill?
Probably because just all of these relationships, yeah, it's crazy. These relationships are a treasure chest. I mean, truly, and since I moved to Winter Park, I got a text today from Brian. I can never pronounce his last name, Angewish or something like that. He's a Everyman Jack. He was Boulder Racing, and he's like a 9-hour Ironman guy. But he texted, yeah, I'm going to come to Winter Park tomorrow. Let's have a beer. I get those kinds of things all the time. But at the end of the day, those relationships paved a path where when Ride the Rockies was sold in 2021, the ride director that was going to take care of it in 2022 left the organization. So they were bought by Gannett, who also owns Ragbri. And so in April, keep in mind the ride's in June, so 2 months before the ride, the people at Primal and then my partner Zach, they lobbied for me to take that role as ride director for Ride the Rockies. Now keep in mind, I'd never directed a 5K school race at my daughter's elementary school. people. I mean, I had zero experience doing anything like that, but I had a lot of relationships and people trusted my judgment for whatever reason. And I'm sure the podcast and just knowing me over the years publicly gave that impression. And so they hired me to take on Ride the Rockies. We had not one permit in place. We had nothing established. We had a route. We had contracts with the towns that we were going to. And it was an absolute blessing under a lot of stress because I learned so much. The ride worked out pretty good. We did okay, but I'm leading to why Colorado's ride. So the model of Ride the Rockies was not going to be sustainable, and we lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. They lost hundreds of thousands of dollars the next year, and then they canceled it. It's out of business. And my partner Zach has had a company called Summit Cycle Solutions that has supported, among other rides, Ride the Rockies, and they do like camping services and some logistical support, and they do that with other organizations as well. And he and I just had this idea that let's start our own ride and let's not make the mistakes Ride the Rockies made. Let's One thing that we always felt is important was trying to have a ride that didn't make you move every day. Because that's pretty stressful on those multi-day rides. You're getting up at 5, you're packing up, you're trying to get food, the start line's at 7. And so we designed a route that we had for the first 3 years, which was 3 nights in Durango and 2 nights in Pagosa Springs, just to make it so you could, have some time in the community, relax a little bit. The second day is always short, so you can take advantage of the local attractions or just hang out or whatever. And so that's kind of how it all was born. And yeah, and it wasn't something I've been trying to do for all my life, but it was an opportunity I felt was there, and so I took a chance.
So, for somebody who's never heard of Colorado's Ride, can you give like a 60-second overview of what it is? You kind of touched upon this a little bit, but like what makes it different from other multi-sport events?
Sure, it's a 5-day road ride, about 300 to 350 miles total. We'll have about 20,000 feet of climbing, and I'll tell you the new route in a second, but it's just a supported road ride. We have ambulance services, we have medical services, we have really good aid stations, we have Colorado State Police that escorts us on the roads. So we try to keep it very, very safe, and that's our main goal. And road riding is, it's struggling a little bit because people are a little bit nervous to be on the roads. So we try to have an event that people can do road riding and feel safe in.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I've never been in a ride where I felt so supported and so safe, even though, there are periods obviously where, you're just out there on the highway. But to have, was it one ambulance or 2 ambulances?
One ambulance.
Oh, it was multiple. I know what it was. It was multiple. There were motorcycle. There was state patrol motorcycles, or like right?
Private company motorcycles that they do medical support, but they're very visible. They have lights on, and it just gives a sense of a lot of people looking after you, which they are.
Wow, it's capped.
But rolling out of town, we had state patrol support, as I remember, each day, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Bill, who is Colorado's Ride really designed for? Is this more of a bucket list ride for experienced cyclists, or can a strong triathlete like myself, I don't know if I would say strong, or a newer rider grow into this as a big season goal?
I think so. We had a guy last year that he was funny. He wore all the wrong clothes. He didn't even have bike shorts on. I think he finally did.
Did he wear jeans? Tell me he wore jeans.
No, not jeans, but he was brand new to riding. And he was trying to change his health. He quit smoking. He dropped a bunch of weight. And he didn't wear a helmet. It was driving me crazy. And so I looked up the rules of the law, and I was like, I actually can't make him wear a helmet. But I finally was like, it was kind of driving me crazy. So I finally went up to him like, what's your name? And tell me about this helmet thing. And then he started to wear it going downhill. I said, can you at least wear it when we're going downhill and going fast? He goes, okay. But then and I got to know him. He's really a nice guy. And so he was a total newbie. His backpack, he carried a backpack for some reason. He let me hold it. It weighed like 20 pounds. I'm like, why do you have, and he had all these extra tools, and food. I'm like, we have all of this for you. I just like to carry myself. I'm like, okay. But if we have a lot of variety, so we've had, older. I had a woman that was probably in her mid 70s, and she rode an e-bike, and it had a flat handlebar, and she wore tennis shoes. I mean, those are obviously extreme. Most people are pretty experienced, and most people have probably done a multi-day ride. I'd say our average age is, it's that kind of the typical road rider these days, 45 to 75. And 70% of our riders stay in hotels, and we do have camping. So we do have a good camping spot each night. And that's probably our typical, probably 65% men and 35% women, which would be what you would expect on a road tour like that.
Very cool.
I got to add something to this. Like one of the things that I felt like when I did it 2 years ago, was the relationships that you made while you were out there. And one of the really cool, like very unique personal touches is that everybody who registers gets a nameplate, and it hangs on the saddle, on the back of your saddle. So when you're riding up behind somebody, you know who you're riding up to, and you can just say, "Hey, Sally, how you doing? You're doing great," and it just, and now all of a sudden, like, this person's name, and you put that name with that kit, and and after a while, you like get these friends, and like Zed, right? Zed and I became fast friends on the very first day, and then we ended up like recruiting other friends, and it turned into a pace line. And not everybody knew how to do a pace line, so we had to do a little bit of like coaching with each other. But and and to your point, the aid stations, I mean, golly, there's so much great food. There was so much great food. Those pickles, oh my God, the pickles.
Yeah, pickle juice. My
Anyway.
goodness, who would have thought? I want to change those license plate this year and see if we can add their hometown.
Oh, that's a
that'd be
great
cool.
idea.
Yeah.
Because you know how much that would be. Oh, you're from New Jersey too. Cool. Right? I mean, that just really breaks the ice.
Yeah. I didn't realize that's where you met Zed.
That's where I met Zed. That's where, Zed. And in fact, actually, Bill, you should talk about this, like the adaptive sports element.
Yeah. So I think the year was it Mike Murphy, who you are coaching with.
Yeah.
He did it the year before you did it, I think.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah. So
with
the
Zed.
first year
He was
we
with
had
Zed.
it, we had a pretty big group of adaptive athletes, all kinds of different things, either VI in the case of Mike, or amputation, or PTSD, or so it was a local group of vets. So we definitely try to work with those kind of folks. There's an adaptive sports program in Crested Butte, which may be part of us this year, because that's where our ride starts and stops in Crested Butte this year. So I'll have to tell you about the new route. But yeah, we love to work with teams. We've had several teams that come and ride that are trying to raise money for their own, causes, whether it's We Ride For, Davis Finney, the Samaritan House. And we also try to work with local high school teams, or other nonprofits in the area. So we definitely have an element of trying to give back. I mean, honestly, our goal as an organization at some point would be, if everything goes well, we'd probably like to turn it into a nonprofit, and just run it that way. Doesn't make sense right now, but that's probably one of my personal favorite things is the two big charities we worked with down in the Durango area. One with an incubator program at a school for really small nonprofits that can't afford to do their own offices and things like that. And they brought out food for us for lunch on 2 different days, on the way there, the way between Durango and Pagosa Springs, and on the way back to Durango. And we raised like $4,000 for these guys, which is huge. And they're so grateful and just really neat. And then the high school mountain bike team in Pagosa Springs brought fresh peaches to the top of Wolf Creek Pass and greeted all the riders as they got to the top of the pass. And one of the unintended consequences of that, which was so amazing, was that the kids, they would cheer our riders on, and then they'd grab their bike and set it in the rack for them. And they had fresh peaches. And of course, the riders would donate some money they brought with them, and they'd raise like $1,000, which for this high school team is huge. they'd buy, help some mechanics, things like that. But what was really neat is the coach, Janine, was telling me later that from her side of it with the kids, that they really enjoyed helping us old people to the top by cheering them on. And it really enforced that this is a lifetime sport. This isn't just for kids. Like, it really inspired these kids to think, oh, wow, I guess I can be doing this well into my whatever. And then on the other side with our riders are like, they just loved the camaraderie and the cheering and they just climbed 4,000 feet. They were tired and these kids were really energetic. It was really a neat thing. We'll have to figure out how to do that this year.
That's an awesome impact that you're able to make through
Yeah.
this. From an athlete's perspective, what would you say are the biggest demands of the course? So from altitude, climbing, descents, and how should riders go about thinking about preparing for that?
I would say it's kind of a mixed bag because you have people that do come from other areas that are no elevation, right? So we've had riders that have had trouble with altitude. So, there's ways that you can try to minimize that with, either getting there early or obviously a lot of hydration. If you're having a tough day, take a sag, right? I mean, you can get back, but don't push it out of limit. So I just say be aware of altitude, especially if you're coming from another state. As far as training and the ride itself, I think everybody's going to have a different volume that they're going to come to the ride with. And what that volume recommendation would be, I think it's just no way to know because everybody's different scale, different athletic ability, different levels. But I would say it's really important to just get some miles on your butt. Like, really get some long days before the ride. Get some 50-mile to 80-mile days just to get used to that type of time on the saddle. And then also, if you can, if you're, have mountains, get some climbing in just to get used to the climbing and the pressure points and the way it affects your body differently. Again, time in the saddle. And clearly, if you're brand new to cycling, I think the descending can be a challenge too, because you're not used to that kind of bike handling and that kind of speed can be a little scary if you're not used to it and things like that. Anything you can mimic is certainly, I think, good. But I think the biggest thing is just volume, at least get some decent volume. You guys are coaches. You would probably have a better aspect than I would, but that's my own armchair coaching.
All right.
I'm going to just
go
add to
ahead,
that real
Rich.
quick. That honestly, the first couple of days, you feel a little bit of fatigue setting in after the first couple of days, but it's a little bit like the work that you did on day one starts to come back and help you day three. And, the work that you did day two starts to help you day four, right? It's like you kind of get fitter and stronger as the week goes on, is kind of my experience.
And I will add that when we put these courses together, we do think about that in terms of like, don't overload somebody, give them an opportunity to like, so the course this year maybe it's a good way to segue this a little bit is we'll start from Crested Butte, go up over Cottonwood Pass, which is a pretty big climb. And we'll drop into Buena Vista. And so that's, I think it's about 70 miles at something like that, but I should pull up the map. But anyway, it's a good long climb. But then the next day we ride from Buena Vista to Salida and we kind of go the long way, which then makes it a 30 some mile day. So it's a really short day and you can totally recover from the hard climb from the day before. If you want to add miles on your own in Salida, go for it. If you want to just go fishing or hang out at the hot springs, you can do that as well. And then the day 3 is our biggest day, which is Salida to Gunnison. So going over Monarch Pass. That's about a 78-mile day. So pretty long descent out off of Monarch into Gunnison. And there's a chance for some headwinds. So that can be a pretty demanding day. And there's no option other than if you need to get a ride, we can give you a ride. But the day 4 is an out and back to a really gorgeous overlook of the Kirakanti recreation area of Needles Rock and the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. It's about a 2,000 foot drop in this unbelievable canyon, the view, not the ride. And it's a big, nice climb up to the view. We have our aid station, and you go back to Gunnison, and that's like 60 miles. But if you're feeling fatigued, just go part way, turn around halfway. You don't have to go all the way to the turnaround at the viewpoint. So, and then day 5, which our last day, is Gunnison to Crested Butte, which if you go straight to Crested Butte, that's a pretty short ride. But we have an optional loop up Ohio Pass, or up towards Ohio Pass, which is an absolutely gorgeous road. Nobody's on it. The mountains are incredibly beautiful. But again, if you're not feeling it, just ride straight to Crested Butte. You don't have to do the optional extra 20 miles. So I try to build in things that will appeal to folks that maybe didn't count on the fatigue. So there's some outs, if you will. And yeah.
It just sounds like truly a premier ride through Colorado. Like Salida is one of my favorite places. I'm going to Crested Butte for my 40th birthday this year. I can't wait. So just hearing all these places and sites and experiences, I mean, wow. It's like a golden ticket. So thinking about that, what does a typical day on Colorado's ride feel like? And I want to know also, how supported is this? Like if you are one of the athletes and you're concerned about nutrition and hydration and all that, and when to stop, and how supported is this?
So I'll let Rich talk about the experience, but because I haven't ridden my own ride, I've just designed it and been part of it. But we have aid stations pretty well, every 15 to 18 miles typically. And we have plenty of hydration, of course. Last year we used Tailwind, and then we had a huge variety of different bars and different fresh fruits and all the different typical things you would have on an aid station. We don't have hot food. You don't have like a food truck, or we don't have like, a griddle or anything like that. And, but we have really good support on the nutrition side. And then we do have SAG vehicles. So if folks are having a rough day or cramping or mechanical issues, we can pick you up and take you to the next spot, whatever that is that makes sense. And then we do, again, have the Common Spirit as our title sponsor, and they provide the medical care. They provide an ambulance. They provide at least, probably have 4 to 5 paramedics that they pay for all of that. They pay for their hotels, they pay for their food, they pay for the ambulance and the gas, and that's why they're our title sponsor. We couldn't do it without them, to be honest, because that would cost a fortune for us to actually pay for all that. So the support is good. The Colorado State Patrol, like we talked about, we will probably have some riding medics that will be on bikes so that you could assist somebody immediately if they need help. And of course, we all have radios, and we're all roving around on the course with our SAG vehicles and with mechanical support, extra tires and tubes, and just making sure people are safe.
Yeah, just I add from the rider's perspective. We all start together in the morning, and we all roll out together. And it was really cool when we roll out of the town. We've got, Bill would be in his Audi at the time, sponsored Audi, and be leading out. But there would also be state patrol making sure that intersections are closed as we're going through them. They would have motorcycles stopping traffic, or like just kind of blocking, just to make sure that we're safe. And then once we're kind of out of town, it is, just riding aid station to aid station. And I thought one of the really thoughtful things that went into the planning from my perspective was you could whether you were going uphill or you were going downhill or a combination of it, you could almost anticipate getting to the aid station about every 45 minutes, right? If it was going uphill, it might only be 8 miles down the road, but Bill took into account that you were going uphill, so you're going to be going a little bit slower. But if it was more of a downhill stretch, that next aid station might be 15, 20 miles down the road. But it still turned out to be around the same amount of effort that it took, and time and effort that it took to get to each aid station. It's just a very, very smart touch. And then the logistics, in the ride 2 years ago, when you go to pick up your packet at ride packet pickup on Sunday night, you have this, of course, in there, but you also have luggage tags that they already know what hotel you're staying in. So when you are checking out of the hotel to go to the next location, all you do is put your luggage out with your luggage tag out by the lobby or out the front of the hotel. And Summit Cycle Solutions would come by and it would have like all the hotels for each place. So your luggage was waiting for you in the lobby of the hotel in the town that you were riding into. It was just right there waiting for you, which is like really, really convenient and really cool. So
we've expanded that service this year. We're going to let people book their own Airbnbs and VRBOs, and we'll include those stops as well for luggage.
that's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
So, and camping, we've got probably 25 to 30% of our riders will camp. So that's a little bit new this year because Durango outlawed outdoor camping last year. And so we had to make an arrangement with a commercial camping spot that wasn't ideal. We only had like 7 people that took us up on it. And that really hurt our ride from an attendance standpoint. And so that was another motivation for moving. People are just getting tired of the route. So we wanted a new experience. That was what our surveys were telling us, that people wanted something different. And the fact that we couldn't have camping in Durango was really a big problem. So we now have great camping spots. We have showers near each camping spot. So it's, and one thing I'll add is we are moving a little more this year, but the Mount Princeton Hot Springs, which is kind of in between Buena Vista and Salida, has a really nice facility. They got cabins and hotel, regular rooms, but they've agreed to, for anybody staying there, if you want to stay 2 nights there, they'll shuttle you from Buena Vista to their hotel for the Monday night. They'll bring you back to Buena Vista Tuesday morning so you can ride to Salida. They'll pick you up in Salida and you bring you back to their hotel. And then they'll drive you even back on Wednesday morning to start that ride. So you can still have that same experience of 2 nights here and then 2 nights in Gunnison, and you're less moving. So there was something else I was going to add when Rich was talking about the aid station. You gave me too much credit. I never really calculated the actual time between aid stations. That was more of a gut feel thing, I guess. But you
Trust
are
that
pretty
gut.
right. Yeah. I guess all my years of riding and knowing about when to try to have an aid station. You can't always do them where you want. That's the trouble, right?
I'll tell you the other thing that was really good. The marking of the course. You guys marked the heck out of that course. I mean, like it seemed like every mile, like you could like count on another sign saying, it's this way, my friends, and it was really cool.
Their experience, they've done route marking for years, like with MS rides and things like that. This team is super experienced. I actually did it one day with them. It's pretty interesting. So there's like a team of 4 that go out a day or 2 before, and there's 2 trucks, and they hopscotch each other, and they put a mark like every half mile. We try to put an arrow, and it becomes a game. Like who can hopscotch and then like do it fast enough to not get hopscotched, and then they kind of have a fun time out there. It's a lot of work though. I mean, and we take the signs down really fast, like the next day or that night even, because the towns and the counties get kind of bent out of shape if you leave a sign up. And then people vandalize them too. And that's cost us a couple times where people who don't love cyclists, they take down our signs at critical turns. So I try to drive ahead of the route each morning just to make sure, and I carry signs with me just in case. And it has happened. It's just and it's funny with all the ride with GPS stuff, people are, I try to encourage people not to use their ride with GPS so much. Like, just enjoy the scenery. We got signs. There's only one road, but everybody's they want to download all this. And I'm like, you just drive on this highway, go about 50 miles and you'll be done. It's not like there's any reason to look at your computer, but we know how the world works with technology.
Like people loading their ride on a crit. Come on.
Yeah.
It's a 1 mile course.
Right. Yeah. I just think it's funny, but I still put value in road markers because I'd really rather have people ride with their head up than their head down.
Great point. Well, I think we're ready to roll into our fun segment for tonight, Bill. And I've been looking forward to this Lauren and I are going to ask you and Rich some excellent adventure questions, kind of inspired by Bill and Ted. We've talked a lot about logistics, safety, altitude, but now it's time for something far more important. We're calling this segment Bill and Rich's Excellent Adventures. Coach Lauren and I are going to ask you both questions about your adventures together. No overthinking, first instinct answers only. Are you both ready?
Okay. Yep.
Ready.
Okay. So, of all the rides, races, or podcast road trips you two have done together, what was the biggest, what were we thinking moment?
Gosh. I don't really have a good one, but I think maybe when we did the interview with sister what's her
Donna Buter?
Sister Madonna Booter.
Yeah, and I brought the 303 trailer up to Boyd Lake, and she's like, it was 2020, and that was one of the only triathlons in the whole country even happening, and she came to Berthoud, Colorado for Loveland, Boyd Lake, and she came down to race that race, and we got an interview with her exclusively, and we forgot a mic, so I did the whole interview with my phone. And the phone was like sitting, and I'm like, oh my god, it turned out fine.
The Iron Nun. Yeah.
The Iron Nun. But that thing went really viral because USA Triathlon picked it up, and they took a lot of quotes out of that. And so luckily that microphone worked.
I thought you were going to say because it was COVID, we didn't have our masks on during the interview. And I was thinking, what if we kill Sister Madonna Booter?
Well,
what if we are the ones?
Away. We were all the things that we thought we were doing right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
I'll leave that be my answer too then.
That's great.
All right. Question number 2. When things go sideways, weather shifts, tech fails, schedule falls apart, who handles it better and who low-key spirals?
Well, I think I handle it better because Rich is the one that always had to fix everything. He was the man that had to
the fixer,
get through the technology, get into the files. And I always felt bad that I could just walk away and not have to worry about it because I had no idea how to fix it.
So it's totally true. I would totally be the one who would spiral. We did an interview. This is like really early on. Carol Sharpless. Do you remember Carol Sharpless?
Yeah.
So we did an interview with Carol Sharpless, and I am listening. Like we did the recording earlier in the week, and I'm editing the interview like the night before we want to publish it, and my side never recorded. So I've got one side of the interview happening with Carol, and you can't hear me. So I literally spent, I don't know how many hours, 4 or 5 hours, pretending like I was talking to Carol Sharpless, and I'm recording one side of a conversation. Like listen, like I'd play her, and then I would like ask the question or respond or whatever to try to make it sound like it was in context. If you go back and you find that like I challenge you to see if you could tell.
I never knew that story, Rich.
Yeah,
I didn't know that story. Wow.
That was a good one.
We put a hell of a lot of time into this thing without making any money on it.
It took us a while to get a sponsor.
I mean, we made a little money, but I mean, like real, like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
All right, you both have spent a lot of time at altitude. Who is more likely to say, I'm fine, while very clearly not fine?
I bet that would be Rich.
That I'm not fine? That I'm saying I'm fine and I'm not fine?
Bill is just throwing you under the bus.
No, it's probably.
I think Rich, I don't know.
You'll share your pain. You'll say it out loud. I won't. I'll keep it a secret. But you would. Like I remember when we did was it the triple or it was the triple that one time. Like we were kind of like,
yeah.
Or Pikes
I can
Peak.
verify and validate this. Pikes Peak. Rich was completely just amazing. No physical signs of exertion while I was literally leaning over my handlebars trying to keep it all together.
Bike speed, yeah.
All right, question 4. If the two of you had to survive a surprise snowstorm mid-stage on Colorado's ride, and you could each choose one thing to bring, what are you picking? Extra layers, food, a mechanic, a playlist, a coffee, a PR team, and who are you not trusting with navigation? Did I ask that right?
I would bring this is actually something that somebody actually did that I thought was really brilliant. They brought a trash bag
Mm.
and like a really thick trash bag. It was Sasha. It was on that same triple bypass.
Yep.
And she had cut out little arms and she used it on the descent down Squaw Pass, whatever it's called now. And I think a really heavy trash bag could be a lifesaver in a snowstorm.
Oh, wow.
Good tip.
And easy.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Dang.
I don't know why, and I'm not really sure like this even answers the question at all. I just went to fucking rental car.
Oh,
we
fucking
just had this. Oh yeah, the minivan in Kona. I don't know. We just had so many problems with that stupid minivan.
yeah.
I'm not even sure like what we would have brought to fix it, except for I think like did we like bump into another car or like no, it was like a city vehicle or something. And we're like rubbing the scuffs out, before we returned it. Like we were like, for sure, we're going to end up having to pay for this rental car. Oh God. And then there was, the last year in Kona, 2019, we were waiting for our flight. It's 10 o'clock at night. We're supposed to do an overnighter back, red eye back to the States. Plane's not there, or it was broken or wasn't there. The airport, like we stayed until midnight. They turned off the lights. They had the music. Like I still have a hard time listening to Hawaiian music at this point.
Oh.
Because they had this Hawaiian music playing in the airport all night long. We slept on benches in the open air at the Kona airport all night long, only to get a rental car at 5 a.m. to go drive to, because we got vouchers finally, to go stay at a hotel for a day. And then we went back that night and flew out.
Not me. I got an extra night because I didn't have to get home. So I got a free night. And it was at the Four Seasons. It wasn't like it was a really nice.
That's true. We were doing pretty good.
Yeah. And I got an extra night. So I just got to hang out for an extra free night. It was awesome.
Guys, awesome. I got one last question for you. Complete this sentence. The real reason Colorado's ride is unforgettable is?
Friends.
Bill Plock.
Love it.
Yeah, seriously. Nobody else could pull it off like you do, I don't think. So hats off, my friend. Nice job. I love that ride. I can't wait to do it again. Would love to do it with Mike Murphy this year if I can. I'd love to do it with you two ladies too. We should, honestly, you guys, yeah, it'd be awesome.
When does this podcast come out?
Tomorrow. Well, tonight. I'll actually probably push it out tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited for this.
I'm just going to take a gamble here. We have been nominated by somebody as one of the top 10 tours in the United States and for USA Today. And that comes out next week. I'm not supposed to tell anybody, but maybe this will slide through.
I love it.
If anybody's listened for the last hour and a half, now they hear that. I don't think it's going to be. No offense. I don't think our audience will probably get me in trouble, but I'm just pretty excited about that.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Well deserved.
Yeah.
Well deserved. Wow. That's a great way to end. Guys, that was great. Thanks for the great questions. You guys like really rocked it. That was a lot of fun. And Bill, it was just awesome spending some time with you here again. Folks, we're really glad that you were here with us. And listen, we really want to make sure that you are taken care of when you are out there doing these long rides. You have got to try Vespa. Vespa Power Endurance helps you tap into steady, clean energy so that you can stay strong, focused, and in the zone longer. Vespa is not fuel, but a metabolic catalyst that shifts your body to use more fat and less sugar for your fuel source. Vespa comes in a number of products. But man, the key point here is less sugar, higher performance, faster recovery. It is awesome. And all of our, in fact, the athletes that used it at last week's Valley of the Sun, you saw the pictures of Greg and Mike. I mean, they swear by it now. So listen, guys, use the code 303 Endurance 20 to get 20% off of your first order. After that, you can get 15% off of every order after that using the code G2G Vespa 15. The link is here in the show notes. Check it out. It's awesome. Thanks for spending time with us today on the Grit to Greatness Endurance podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please follow us and leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. It helps us reach more athletes like you. Stay gritty, train smart, and keep chasing greatness. We will see you next week.